Hi, I'm Stephanie, and I'm a certified personal trainer.
Hi, I'm Kate, and I'm a registered dietitian nutritionist.
And this is a podcast dedicated to educating women on their journey to optimal health. There's so much that we can do to optimize our health, but we've talked to so many women who just simply don't know how.
These conversations are what inspired us to start Omnia Fit. The Omnia Fit podcast is all about interviewing certified professionals to educate women on improving our health. We'll talk about things like stress relief through exercise, what we need to know about our hormones, the truth behind fad diets, and more. So subscribe, follow along, and let us know if there are any topics you want to hear more about. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Omnia Fit. This is Kate here, and this week I am joined by a very special guest. Her name is Jennifer Ernst, and she has her master's in nutrition, and she is here today to talk about everything digestion related. So we talk about some myths, some fun facts. We go over whether detoxes work and what it means to have a healthy gut. And I hope that everyone enjoys and learns something new about digestion. So without further ado, this is Jennifer. Jennifer Ernst, Kentucky, and her specialty is digestion. And talking to Jennifer, she kind of kicked off talking about how digestion begins with the eyes, which I think is such a cool phrase. So Jennifer, do you kind of want to kick it off with that?
Yes. So Apicus said that we eat with our eyes first. And one of the things that, remember when you were growing up and you were excited about what whoever prepared your meal at home made for dinner, and you were so excited about seeing it. And little babies, when you feed them, they like to look at the food and they like to feel the food and play with it. But as we've gotten older and we get in a hurry, we do not gaze at our food, or we often don't make our food beautiful either. So I think there's a big value in preparing your meal to be not only pleasing to the eyes, but to spend some time staring at it so that we can start our digestive processes.
Yeah, for sure. I just think that's like such a cool phrase that it starts with the eyes, because that's such a thing to forget about. I think when we think about like slowing down and taking sort of like the mindful eating concept, right, of really focusing on what we're eating.
Yeah. So mindful eating is kind of amazing. I had a client recently. I had 6 clients in a 3 or 4 day time frame that came for the reason they were going to have their gallbladder. They said, I'm going to have my gallbladder removed. What am I going to do? And I said, are you sure you have to have it removed? Could we slow down a little bit and stare at the food and prepare our digestion that way? And then eat a little more mindfully. Eat until we started to feel full. So we started to talk about the concept of how big our stomach is. So my stomach is about the size of my 2 fists. Your stomach is about the size of your 2 fists. My 2-year-old niece, her stomach is about the size of her 2 fists. So everything is very personally size dependent. And so I had these 7 women start to eat a little smaller and start to feel their digestion happening and start to calm down a little bit. And now every one of them, they've been back to their surgeon, and he has said, your gallbladder is no longer inflamed. You no longer need to remove it. Now, whatever you've done with your digestive process has repaired.
That's crazy.
So I think that's awesome that they would take that time.
Yeah, that's crazy what that can do, to just slow down and, be more mindful.
Well, it was interesting. One of the things I had the privilege to go to the International Mindfulness Convention when it was in Italy. I think it was 5 years ago. And there was a whole meeting on digestion. And this is before I'd done my master's. And one of the things they talked about was allowing a soda cracker to lay on your tongue and let it melt. It has 54 different flavors. So people that are super tasters can taste 54 different flavors in that soda cracker. And if you just chewed up a soda cracker, it does not have 54 different flavors. So the process of digestion gets pretty ramped up in there.
So what would you say working with people with digestion? There's so much talk about like healthy gut. What does that mean, having like a healthy gut? What is kind of your take on some of the biggest misconceptions that you hear about that?
Well, I would say a healthy gut is probably very person dependent. So if the person feels good, likely their gut might be fairly healthy. And they might define that as how often they have a bowel movement, or if they never have acid reflux or indigestion, any of those um, oh things that can happen with indigestion. But really, a healthy gut is one where we feed our microbiota. So if we have 100 trillion microbiota, how do we feed those properly? Well, it's through fiber and multigrain foods and produce. And oftentimes, when our digestion starts to lack, or we become, you know, disappointed
Yeah.
in our digestion, is when we've limited those things. We've been in a hurry, and I mean, when I'm in a hurry, I don't say, "Ooh, I'd love to have some great carrots to eat in
Yeah.
the car on the way somewhere," right? So when I'm in a hurry, I'm probably having a big coffee,
Yep.
or something like that. And so oftentimes, one of the biggest myths with digestion is our speed, or what we've put into ourselves. Also, if you're having trouble breaking down your food, maybe you swallowed the food too quickly. Maybe you didn't take the time to masticate it. And if our enzyme production for both carbohydrates and fat begin in the mouth with salivary amylase and salivary lipase, both those things. So both of our fats and our carbohydrates start that breakdown in the mouth. Well, if the soda cracker has 54 flavors. I just went to a chocolate tasting where we mindfully laid a piece
Yeah.
of chocolate on our tongue, and we allowed it to melt. Amongst the people that were there, well, they were all on Zoom, but amongst the people that were there, we counted 62 different flavors.
Wow.
So I would hope chocolate would always have more flavors than a soda cracker, though. So it just shows that the more time we give all the textural aspects and all our taste bud aspects of our mouth, we're going to get more benefit.
Yeah, for sure. And kind of what is your take then on the whole probiotic industry, prebiotics? That's become such a huge industry now, that
Yeah.
it's hard to even kind of decipher, I think, for most people at this point.
Yes, I think a lot of people would think that a probiotic helped anything mouth to anus. And in reality, they think adding a probiotic is just helpful for
Yeah.
anything. And then they don't think about where the probiotic is targeted. So our digestive tract has more than 100 trillion microorganisms, which is kind of amazing because I don't know 100 trillion of anything
Yeah.
else, right? And so they all participate in digestion and the defense functions of our GI tract. Just like our fingerprint, our gut microbiota composition is unique. Yours is different than mine. Stress can change it. Breathing deeply can change it. So it is very diverse and complex. And so when we add a probiotic to the 100,000 bacterial species and the 100 or more genes that are found in the human genome in that gut, we're kind of like we're peeing in the wind, right? Or peeing in the rain. Excuse me. I knew the expression I wanted. It wasn't going to come out there correctly. You've added something to that has so minimally affected it. Now, if let's say those all let's think about all the functions that are a part of our GI tract. That's our mental health, our physiology, our metabolism, our immune function. And then if we disrupt that, think about the complications, the GI conditions or inflammatory bowel disease, or even obesity can come from
Yeah.
things like that. So I feel like adding in a probiotic willy-nilly is a bad idea. Now there is a database of all the different, just like anything else, there's a database of
Yeah.
probiotics too. So there's a database that if you and your doctor had sat down and said, I think you do need a probiotic. You've been on antibiotics all this time, or you're having all these different these specific GI symptoms. Well, there is a specific database where you could get the exact
Right.
probiotic you needed. And physicians are they can look at that and they can make those decisions. There's state of the art tools to make these adjustments to your microbiome now.
And so,
Uh,
what would you kind of say is the difference then with foods with naturally occurring probiotics? So, like a yogurt or a kombucha or
yes.
something like that, like a fermented food.
Yeah. So when it becomes a food, remember they have other processes and our body is targeted. We're designed to eat
Yeah.
foods. So let's say the amount of probiotic in kombucha or yogurt um, benefits our bacteria, our gut bacteria in some way. Well, the transformaldehyde acid within the yogurt might benefit our our metabolism, and it might cause us to eat a little bit less
Yeah.
when otherwise taking a probiotic that's just munching away on the good and bad bacteria
Yeah.
both. It can act in a symbiotic relationship.
Yeah, that makes sense. Um,
So food is more than just the sum of its parts. It has a lot more value
right.
that way.
Totally. So kind of sticking to the ones with probiotics occurring in them is a better route than maybe just going and picking up a random probiotic at the store.
Exactly. Because you might not know what those things are on
Yeah.
the label, right? I've had a lot of biochemistry, and I might not know what those things are
Yeah.
on the label also.
I
Yeah.
feel the same way
And when
sometimes.
you think,
I'm like, I
yeah,
took a lot of
oh,
science
I could
classes and I don't know what this is.
yeah, let me break this word down and see how this goes. Um, and then also, when you think about it, when these things are created, right? I've had a client recently, and she was worried about taking something because she didn't want to put something unnatural into her body. I
Yeah.
totally get it, but she took like 9 supplements, and I said, well, it's not like they went out to the supplement tree and pulled this probiotic supplement off of
Right.
it. We were reading how it was made, and they used zebrafish to actually make the probiotic she was taking. And it was a very quality probiotic, but still they've used zebrafish. I like to think that I have more in common with a container of yogurt or some kimchi or maybe a little vinegar I've put on my
Yeah.
salad than I do with a
Yeah,
zebrafish.
that is very true.
Yeah, in a lab. Yeah.
Yeah.
I, I hope to think so anyway.
So another big kind of like buzzword that we hear a lot is detoxing. So there's like the detox teas, there's the detox pills, there's the drinks,
Yes.
there's to, restart your digestive system. So what's kind of your take on those?
Well, I know that we all, for the most part, we do a really good job of eating, right? And then we do fall off the bandwagon at times, of
Yeah.
course, right? And so sometimes the concept of a detox is someone just getting back to
Right.
the norm. Now, let me explain what I'm saying here. I before we talked, I thought I want to get online and read what people think as to a
Yeah.
detox diet. So I kept reading along, and one was like, "You will have 7 servings of fruits and vegetables during this," and I thought, "Well, you really ought to have that anyway."
Yeah.
And then and I was like,
That's like what we're supposed to be doing every day
so
that very few of us
we're
do.
supposed to be doing that every day. So um, if if we look at that as a metaphor for shedding our old habits, we're going to say, okay, October 1st, I'm going to focus on having more fruits and vegetables. What a great idea. But your liver is your detox organ. And I'm just going to say this, your liver is a great big organ, and your liver can do all the
Yeah.
detoxing you need. So let's say it happens every day. We detoxify every day, not just when we drink raw vegetables or not when we make
Right.
vegetable juice. So the body's pretty clever when it comes to that. Our GI tract has Peyer patches, and they form a bundle in the mucous membrane lining, and that allows them to screen out harmful bacteria so that they do not go into the bloodstream. And the beneficial nutrient from the food is drawn away. And so our intestines, they're kind of dirty. So you don't really, but you don't even really need to clean them. They do their job. And so let's talk about what the kidneys do. They detoxify and filter a half a cup of blood a minute. That's
Yeah.
a lot. And so when you urinate, you eliminate your
Right.
toxins that way. So now let's talk about alcohol, because everybody likes to have a little alcohol here and there. The liver takes over that job and it detoxifies that alcohol. Now, if you have too much too often, let's not wear your liver out. But detoxifying alcohol is a two-step process. Enzymes turn your alcohol into acetaldehyde. And now that is a toxin, right? But this quickly becomes acetic acid and then carbon dioxide and then water. So guess what? That's why when you drink beer, you have to urinate, right? That's just an easy way to express how that happens, right? Now, if you drink faster than your liver can metabolize that, then your blood alcohol level rises, and that's when the police pull you over, right? So if you have too much acetaldehyde, I can't say that word today, acetaldehyde, your liver can be damaged. But if you are a moderate drinker, your liver can handle it. So better to have a little regularly than a whole lot at once, over and over again. So really, special detox diets, they just don't do anything for us. But eating your 7 vegetables a day, 7 pieces of produce.
Yeah, it's so true. Like, it's easy to, like, if you've been eating weird stuff or you feel like, oh, you just feel weird, it's really just comes down to, like, going back to what you'd normally eat. And then your body does the rest, right?
Yes. Yes. I talk to so many people that are like, oh, I didn't food prep this week, or oh, I didn't meal plan, and they act like it's the end of the world. Easily you could go to some place like Whole Foods. Whole Foods right now has, and Whole Foods does not pay me to say this, but I was kind of amazed. They have, I am a vegetarian for the most part. Occasionally, if I go to your house and you make meat, I will eat it. But like right now, Whole Foods has a protein, whether it be salmon or chicken, or they make a meatloaf, they make vegan meatballs, and then they have 2 sides, and it's $23. It's enough for 4 or 5 meals. So when you think about it, that could be your meal plan.
Yeah.
Pretty easily. So sometimes we take our nutrition, we make it too hard.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's my biggest takeaway for people is don't make it so hard.
Go buy the meatloaf at Whole Foods instead of the detox drink.
Instead of the detox drink. If you want to have a green juice, have a green juice. But do you probably need one every day? No, probably not.
Yeah, definitely.
A little reasonability never hurt anyone.
Yeah, that's such a theme with everything in nutrition. It's just, it's not as hard as you think it is, right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. It seems like wherever you go, people act like if you do any work with nutrition, you've never eaten a donut, or you absolutely shun cookies, or you're afraid of sugar. So apparently on this television show, Hot in Cleveland, which I've not seen, but one of the characters told her daughter that she was allergic to sugar. And a girl in one of my classes this week said to me, my mother told me that growing up. And I said, oh, really? And she says, well, you just taught us that that's not a thing. And I'm like, yeah, well, it could be a thing, but it's not likely that it's a thing. And I said, but I said, but you really have great teeth. And she says, well, yes, but I wasn't allowed to have, she listed all these things she wasn't allowed to do growing up. And I said, well, probably there's some breakdown in that. Probably some part of it, your mother was trying to help you out with some nice teeth or something. But we need to be very reasonable in all things.
Yeah, absolutely. And another thing too is we kind of touched on it, like with eating with your eyes, but
Yes.
there's so many other factors with digestion that aren't even necessarily like the exact foods that we eat.
Yes.
Can you kind of go into
Think
that a little
about
bit?
if you've been, oh yeah, think about if you've been upset and eaten a
Yeah.
meal. Well, when you're upset, you're in that fight or flight system of your body, not the rest and digest. So if you've eaten when you're angry or upset, your stomach is not getting all that blood flow. You're not getting all that's not happening. So if you're upset, it might be better to deal with the upset and then to worry about the eating later on, as opposed to forcing yourself through something.
Right.
Okay.
So another thing too that I've heard a lot from people as they're getting older, as like my parents get older, my grandparents, they talk about foods they can't tolerate anymore or foods that don't digest the same way. Is there kind of things you've seen about digestion changing as we get older as well?
Yeah, digestion can change as you get older. I'm 50, and I, I feel like I'm a low model 50 or a low mileage 50, if that makes sense. I've never been too extreme on anything. I'm very fortunate in that case, but it's just like anything else. The harder we've ever been on something, the quicker it breaks. So when persons have eaten a lot of fast food, they sort of lose the taste for regular food, for fruits and vegetables. And then the other thing about aging is sometimes our dentition changes and we're just not able to chew all the crunchy fruits and vegetables that we once were. And if we've eaten very fast for a lot of years, we might start to develop some constipation, or we might have taken some medications that cause things to be sluggish. Also, as we get older, we don't exercise as much as we did when we were younger. We don't have the energy, we don't have the time. And so sometimes that causes some sluggishness in the GI tract. But being more mindful, drinking more fluids, having plenty of water will keep everything running smoothly. And if as you age, your dentition changes, learning to maybe steam your vegetables versus eat them raw, so you get most of the same nutrients, but yet not as tough on the dentition as helpful.
Yeah. So as we kind of wrap this up here, what is kind of like the biggest message that you'd love people to take away about having better digestion?
Eat slow, stare at your food, gaze at it before you eat it, smell it, start those enzymes churning, and enjoy what you're eating.
Yeah.
So
That's a great.
Yeah. Cook it low and slow before you eat it.
Yeah, that's a great starting point for sure.
Thank you so much. This was very interesting.
Yeah, this was really fun. You too.
Have a great day.
Bye.
All right, bye-bye.
Feeling inspired yet? We've got you covered. At the very end of the season, we'll be launching our OmniaFit website. You'll be able to access a platform filled with on-demand workouts like yoga, HIIT, Zumba, bar, and more from several amazing instructors. You'll also have access to meal prepping tips, personalized grocery lists, and dozens of recipes given the official okay by our incredible dietitian, Kate.
Along with everything Stephanie mentioned, you'll also have access to schedule appointments with some of the licensed professionals featured in this season. Email info@omniafit.co to stay updated on our November launch date. You'll want to stay tuned because our first season listeners get their first month free. Just use promo code POD2021, that's POD 2021 to redeem.